and we will kick it off with public comment. And first up, it looks like we have June O'Connell.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. First, I want to thank all the members of the commission for your volunteerism and your service, because I know this takes a lot of time for what you've been doing, and particularly your efforts to grow the ways to acquire additional units. I want to just put, and I worked for years, for 5 and 6 years, some years ago, on affordable housing issues a lot. So I've tracked up what you've been doing, and you should be proud of yourselves. But I want to raise two things that are sort of out of that box, based on my own personal views, of course. One is regarding the fact that sometimes large apartment owners, like a Ditmore, an Avalon, or who knows what, like to foster the idea of scarcity of units now. And I want to suggest to you that even if there's a long-term scarcity of units and housing, that it's not now. And one person represented to the county board a few years ago, she's now on the board, that when she tried to get a couple of units, she was told that she was outbid because somebody else had offered more than the asking price. And I was troubled that there wasn't some skepticism, because, you know, they don't have to tell the truth. As long as they're not discriminating, they can tell you, oh, we don't have a 1-bedroom den. How would you like a 2-bedroom? Or we're filling up our 1-bedrooms. And they have different priorities in different protocols. They don't think like you and I, when we might have 1 or 2 units. So when someone says that they were told that a building was full or blah, 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 I would encourage you to ask them to drill down and find out if they tried other apartments, and to remember that that building does not have to tell the truth any more than a car salesman does or anyone else. And second of all, we talk about affordability, but I would encourage you to, when someone says they can't find an affordable unit, which is true in Arlington, that you also drill down with them and ask them, well, what were they looking for in that quote unquote unit? Because sometimes people have real rigid standards. They want, if the apartment doesn't have an ensuite laundry, then it's not affordable. If it doesn't, if they'd have to share with a roommate, which I've certainly done in my life, then it's not affordable. If it's not in the RB corridor and on Columbia Pike, then it's not affordable. And sometimes people just don't necessarily get what they want. So, and I think that both of these things are important, because to me, it would be better if buildings had mixes of income, and people who might be college educated or whatever, who think that a Woodbury Park or a Sheffield Court is not, beneath them, are not creating an expansive income space. And secondly,
June, sorry, your 3 minutes are up, but very much appreciate the comments. And look forward to your comments on 2500 Wilson later in the meeting.
Thank you. I don't have a clock, so I can't see.
No worries.
Oh, no, there it is. Sorry.
It's okay. Next up, we have comments from Alice Hogan.
Good evening, everyone. Alice Hogan from Navajo, Arlington. Just a couple of things. I wanted to thank Alex for sending around our newsletter. Hope you all got it in your inbox. There's a lot going on with the county, you know, and in general with the affordable housing month coming up. Lots of things to learn about and meet on and give feedback. So I hope you're all taking a look at that. I also wanted to mention that VOICE, which is Virginians Interfaith Organizing for Community Engagement, is a group that brings together all kinds of communities of faith to look at issues, and they focus right now mostly on affordable housing as well as youth mental health. But they are having an assembly in Herndon on Sunday, October the 19th. and they've invited both gubernatorial candidates and other statewide candidates to come and hear a presentation and take questions about their housing agenda. And so it's a great opportunity to show both sides of the aisle how important housing is, and use our voices and our attendance there to signal that to them. So their goal is between 700 and 1,000 people. So if anyone is interested in going to that, you don't have to be affiliated with any group. Any housing proponent would be welcome. I'd be happy to help you out with that. So, and then Alex, on the side note, I forgot to ask you for to get on the list for 2500 Wilson if it's not too late. Whatever you think. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Yeah, I don't have an issue with you being added for 2500 Wilson. Okay, if there's no other public comment on items not on the agenda, then the next item is our approval of the minutes. I was not at the last meeting, so I just want to point that out, Alex, that it does list me as present for that meeting. So if we could change that, and also note that Katie was chairing the meeting in my place.
Yep, I can make that edit.
Thank you. Any other changes to the minutes from folks who were at that meeting? I guess hearing none, then do I have a motion to approve the minutes with the change that I brought up?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, there's some competition for that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it. So
There we
Brian
go.
can be first.
Thank you. And any objection to the minutes passing? And actually, since I'm going to abstain, let's just do the roll call. So I will start with myself. I'm abstaining. Then Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner Surface.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz.
Yes.
Commissioner Ross.
Yes.
Commissioner Blake.
Yes.
Commissioner Linick.
I too was not at the last meeting.
Okay. Are you abstaining?
I don't know what the appropriate thing to do is, so I'm fine with the notes. Or I abstain.
You can either vote yes, no, or abstain.
Why are you abstaining?
Because I wasn't at the meeting either.
Okay, I will do what you're doing. I abstain.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner McGilvray.
Yes.
Okay, then they pass with 2 abstentions. Thank you. And so the next item on the agenda is, sorry, I'm trying to pull that up. I think 2500 Wilson Boulevard.
Yes, so good evening, commissioners. My name is Alex McMillan. I am with the Arlington County Housing Division. I'm going to first turn it over to the applicant team to give a presentation on the proposed site plan, after which I will be going over the handout that was sent to the commission, mostly focusing on the affordable housing contribution. So turning it over to the applicant.
Great. Thanks, Alex. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, thanks for your time this evening. My name is Kedrick Whitmore. I'm a land use and zoning attorney with Venable LLP, and we're excited to bring you the application for 2500 Wilson Boulevard. So on the next slide, you can see the location of the property. It is in the heart of the RB corridor, bounded by Cleveland, Wilson, Barton, and Clarendon Boulevard. On the next slide here, you'll see a couple of views of the existing site, really showing that prime location in the corridor. And it shows what it is improved with today, which is an existing, fairly obsolete office building, as well as some open space that is really does not read as public open space and is a little bit difficult to access. The next slide here shows a couple of closer views. You can see some of that elevated open space there in the bottom right, and some additional views of the office building itself. You can also see in the bottom right there is an existing public art sculpture in that green area that exists today. On the next slide here, you'll see the plan view of our proposed ground floor program. You'll see that open space that I mentioned there on the southern side of the property along Clarendon Boulevard. That is then flanked by entrances to a new 14,000 square foot retail area along Clarendon, and the tower rising above it, as well as a few of the areas on the first floor there are our residential units. We're proposing 316 total residential units. Some additional information about parking and bike parking, which I won't go into in detail right now, but happy to discuss if folks would like to do that. On the next couple of slides here are some architectural renderings, just to give you a sense of what this building will look like as you walk around the building. This is the view from the northeast side. The next slide shows the southwest corner of the building, and finally the southeast corner of the building on the next slide. So advancing one more slide, some more information about our housing. We're really proud of what we've been able to bring here from a housing perspective. We're bringing 316 new units into the corridor, positioned between the courthouse and the Clarendon metro stations. Of those 316 units, 103 of them, 32% are family sized, which we're very happy about. And although that information is not here on this slide, the average unit size is somewhat larger than what we're accustomed to seeing in some of these new proposals that have come forward, something we're very happy about. And I think even better is the story on affordables. We're providing 20 on-site affordable units, and over 50% of those are two-bedroom units. These will be subject, obviously, to the typical affordability restrictions in terms of both term and percentage of AMI. So with that, I'll close my presentation and we'll be available for any questions you all may have. Thank you.
Thanks, and I will share my screen very quickly. So yes, I will very quickly go over the staff handout before passing it back to the commission for questions. So as the applicant mentioned, they're proposing a 16-story residential building with about 18,000 square feet of ground floor retail space. There are 316 proposed residential units, and the site is subject to the Courthouse West Special GLUB study that was approved in September of 22. So there are three parts to the affordable housing program at this site, and so I'll break those down. So the first proposed piece is the base affordable housing ordinance contribution, and that is the applicant's choice of about $730,000, or 4 on-site units, or 6 off-site units nearby, or 8 units elsewhere in the county. And that is the choice of the applicant at C of O. The second piece to the affordable housing contribution is associated with the GLUB designation change. So that Courthouse West GLUB study did call for on-site affordable units equivalent to 20% of the difference in floor area between the maximum under the existing GLUB designation and the project's proposed density under the new GLUB. And so that comes out to about 13,000 square feet. And that equates to 14 CAFs composed of 6 one-bedrooms and 8 two-bedrooms. And so that 14 units is for that GLUB change. And then the third piece is the affordable housing contribution to achieve additional density above the site plan base. And the applicant has committed to make a contribution of 6 on-site CAFs for that. So 3 one-bedrooms and 3 two-bedrooms. So I know that was a lot of numbers, but in total, it is 20 on-site CAFs consisting of 9 one-bedrooms and 11 two-bedrooms. And as mentioned, they will be affordable up to 60% AMI for 30 years. The applicant also proposes 1 CAF to be type A accessible. So quickly, looking at the racial equity section, so data from the 2023 American Community Survey 5-year estimate indicates the census tract where the site plan is proposed has a proportionally smaller white, Black, and Asian populations than the county does as a whole. The data also indicates there is a larger percentage of multiracial and combined populations and a larger Hispanic or Latino origin population in the census tract where the proposed development is located compared to the countywide population. So the proposed 20 on-site CAFs will benefit and enable income eligible families to live in an area of the county that is transit proximate and contains community amenities. In terms of who is burdened, the proposed units will be affordable up to 60% AMI and may not be affordable to households with very low incomes and who may not be eligible for housing grants or housing choice vouchers. For this reason, one could say that very low income households are missing from this opportunity as well, since those households may not have access to live in units if they're still unaffordable. So in terms of what we do, the county has an opportunity to consider the site plan's proposed affordable housing program in light of these potential benefits and impacts. And so staff recommends approval of the applicant's affordable housing program, which includes the base affordable housing ordinance contribution and the 20 on-site CAFs. So with that, I will turn it back to the commission.
Thanks, Alex. Do we want to take public comment on this item now?
Yes, let me bring that up.
Okay, first up we have June.
It says 1 minute. That's better. So I live at 2400 Clarendon Boulevard across from this building in the Charleston condos. I've had this unit for 26 years. I'm familiar with the special GLUP study that was done in September 22nd, 2022 and subsequent things. And so I want you to understand that in September, when the GLUP study was approved, Takas and Matt wanted a hard cap at 12 stories and were persuaded by Christian Dorsey and Katie Crystal and to some degree Libby Garvey that, well, maybe they should go to 14 as a soft cap if the developers did special things to get those 2 additional floors. And that's what they voted on, and that's in the record and in the minutes. Except that then this applicant came in a couple of months later, went only to long-range planning, and was able to bootstrap itself onto that special GLUP. But the language about earning more than that 2 additional stores somehow got dropped, lost by the applicant, by the planning commission, who always wanted 16 or no cap. And so now it's nowhere in the minutes. So I would say to you that that was not, that language was never revoked by Mr. DeFerrante or Takas. And this applicant came in from the get-go, first with 16 stories, which was outside the board guidance, and then graciously dropped it to 14 with nothing about doing something special to go from 12 to 14. So my message to you tonight is that you shouldn't accept this. They think their affordable housing plan is good, but I think it's not good enough. It doesn't include 3 bedrooms, and it doesn't even include the larger ones with dens. And they said to the planning commission last night, where I was, that, well, they weren't required or it didn't count right, whatever. And when the planning commissioner questioned why it was only at 60% when lower income units were, they had some justification for that. So I urge you to not accept it, to simply say that it's a nice package, but it's not good enough. They didn't submit anything special for those 2 additional floors, which was part of the board guidance. It's not a particularly special building. I don't think its tapering isn't good. I'd be happier with 12 stories. But if they're going to get 14 under what the board said in September 2022, then they should come up with 3 bedroom units and units lower than lower than the 60% median, and I think more units. And I think you can put that in your letter. You think they should be more and better.
Oh, thank you, June. Appreciate your comments. And just a point of clarification from staff or the applicant, it's my understanding it's 16 stories.
14.
Is that?
That was an older version that was on the report there. Yes, it was initially filed for 16 stories, but subsequently reduced to 14.
Okay. That, yeah, shouldn't that be updated before that gets sent to us? That question is more for staff.
Yeah, that was probably pulled from the private development planning page. So that must be an older version, but can update it for the online version.
Okay, thank you. And then our next public speaker will be Alice.
Hi. I think it's great that we are getting 300 plus new units. We need housing of all kinds in Arlington. So I applaud, the addition of all those units. I had the same question why some of the CAFs could not be 3-bedroom units, even if we got a few, fewer units to have some that are on the larger side, I think would serve our low-income population well. And, not to put the developer on the spot, but just for us to take a look at, I was struck by the ordinance, the application of the ordinance in this particular proposal. So the developer had the choice to choose between $730,000 as an AHIF contribution, or 4 on-site units, 6 off-site units close by, or 8 far away. So of course the applicant is going to choose $750,000 over all of these units for 30 years. So I just bring it up as an example because this commission is looking closely at the ordinance and how it needs to be updated. This is an example to me of how outdated that calculation is, and that no wonder something like 99% of the time that cash contribution is selected. So thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Yeah, isn't the cost of one CAF unit to be developed now, isn't that around $600,000 or so? Yeah, I mean, so clearly the cash contribution is completely out of whack with the other options.
Yeah, I think it's about $500,000, 500,000, I think.
Okay.
Right now.
Well,
Still.
Thank goodness we have our subcommittee that will be briefing us on their work later in this meeting. Brian, did you have a question? I know your hand went up before. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. And just a point of clarity, I mean, of course, it depends upon the size of the CAF unit, right? But on average, you're getting around that $600,000 range to Alice's point for the cost. So yeah, the ratio is pretty skewed. But just a question to the developer. I wanted to get a few things out the way. First, understand that the cash contribution floor that was set for you was that $730 something thousand. That correct? Has there been any conversation about contributing a greater sum, right? That's the floor, but of course it could always be higher.
Sure. So I know that you, Commissioner Coleman, and this commission knows this, so you'll indulge me for repeating and kind of going through the different buckets of affordable housing. But the 700 plus that we talk about for the cash contribution is based purely on the ordinance. And something, as you all know better than I do, is something that the county cannot vary from in their asks for that, because it is set by both state and local code. But we did discuss these greater contributions in terms of the on-site affordable units. And those are, I think, higher than you typically see given the size of the building, in large part because of both bonus density and the special GLUP study that we went through. And that's kind of where those numbers came. So that's a long way of answering no. We didn't talk about any greater contribution for cash because it was through the ordinance, but we did, I think, make up for those, and I think in a large part with the on-site units that we provided in exchange for the GLUP change and the bonus density.
Okay, just two quick questions in succession afterwards. The first, can you give me the average rent for these units? I actually live in this area that you're building this in, so I have a sense of what it may cost, but I just want to know what, say for a one bedroom, right? How much would the average rent be on one of those?
I don't have that. I don't know if Dan Glavin from the applicant does or not, but I would ask.
Yeah, it varies depending on, where the unit's located within the building, whether it has views, whether it has a balcony. So there's all sorts of characteristics that go into it. But I think on average, it's fair to say like a one bedroom unit may vary between $2,700, potentially up to 3,000 or so if it's like a, penthouse type of unit. But those are our assumptions today. So the only thing I'd caveat is development takes time. Once the building opens and construction actually occurs, will be years down the road. So it's kind of up to both of us to forecast out until then.
And last quick question, just having to do with some of the comments made by June earlier around the unit sizes. I remember it was stated earlier that there are a number of larger units present in this building, which were abnormal. Did it just not pencil out to have 3-bedroom units, or is that something that can feasibly still be done? Can you subdivide one of these larger 2 bedrooms? Is there a way for us to get these 3-bedroom units? 'Cause I think that's really important to allowing for larger families to be able to live in these kind of buildings here.
I mean, from a discussion perspective, I mean, this is what we discussed with the county and the county's recommendation to provide this number of 2-bedroom units. There are any number of potential permutations of how this can shake out, right, based on value and size. I won't speak for the county, but I think the idea was probably that, hey, we can get a large number of family size units, though they're 2s rather than 3s, as compared to a far smaller number of 3s that would come if we scaled up the size.
Yeah, and if I could just add on to that. So staff did do some analysis looking at 3-bedroom units on the site, 3-bedroom CAFs. But as others have brought up, the subsidy associated with that unit size is far greater than you see with the subsidy for a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom. So you're talking 500 to 600,000 subsidy for a 3-bedroom. It is much higher than that. And so, like Kedrick stated, there was an ability to get a large number of family size units that would have been greatly reduced if 3-bedroom units were added into the composition mix.
All right,
Alex, who is our representative if we had one for the SPRCs?
1 second. Oh, Karen. Yes, Karen Service.
I was
Karen,
there. Yeah, I was
Do
there.
you have any thoughts that you want to share?
Not really, because it seems like that was ages ago. What I do remember a lot about that meeting was the people that were concerned about the trees that are around the property, and that, I don't know, I saw, because I walked by there, that you put little tags on the trees, so I guess you're going to keep the trees. And then the other concern I remember during that meeting was like the daycare. And I know that has to go away, but I guess it's going to take a while before you develop it. So hopefully that daycare center, which is on that ground floor, will have enough time to relocate. Those were the concerns that were brought up during the meeting, if I can remember correctly.
Thank you, Karen. Kedrick or Dan, I don't know, did you have anything you wanted to add about the trees and the daycare?
With respect to the daycare and Commissioner Service, I agree. It felt like it was a long time ago. We have been working with economic development to try to find a new space for them. You're required in standard site plan conditions to provide for relocation plans for any commercial tenant that's in a building that's going to be redeveloped. We've kind of gone beyond that with conversations with the county and with economic development staff to try to find a home for the daycare. So that's something that we're aware of and actively working on kind of as we go through both during this process and then any of the time following the process as well.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit more about the change in height from 16 stories to 14, and how that happened or why that happened?
Sure. And it's a pretty long history, so please, I'll ask for your forgiveness in advance as we go through this. So you all may be aware that the courthouse sector plan, and I don't mean the envisioned courthouse addendum from 2015, but rather the full courthouse plan that's in effect, is quite old. There is one from, I believe, 1981 and one from 1993. That covers both this property and the property adjacent to it to the west. And that's important because the property adjacent to this one to the west came forward for a special GLUP study several years ago. They went through that process, and it was determined that they could rezone to a CO 2.5. But that their heights would be capped at that 14 stories, which is lower than the typical CO 2.5 limit of 16 stories. And part of the rationale for that was the distance that site sat in the saddle between the courthouse and the Clarendon Metro, and that it was essentially kind of in between those two, and therefore we're going to drop the height a little bit. So after that neighboring site went through its GLUP study process, this site came forward, and we filed a GLUP study, and the staff said, hey, you know what? We just analyzed the property next door. I don't think that we need to go through a full-blown GLUP study. The issues are generally remain the same. So essentially tacked this one in some ways onto that GLUP study. So when we came forward initially, we wanted to maximize units, density, height. And so we made the application for a 16-story building, with the rationale being that the reason that the county dropped the heights to 14 stories in the neighboring property was because of its proximity or lack thereof to Metro. Here we're closer, right? We're another block closer to the Metro, and so our rationale was that issue, that gating factor for heights, did not apply to this property. Staff didn't agree with that, and so after some discussion, we agreed to then reduce the height to that 14 stories that was called for in the GLUP study for the other project. So again, I apologize for the long-winded answer, but that's how we got to where we are today.
Thank you. I think it's absolutely absurd that the county anywhere on the Roslyn-Ballston corridor is reducing heights. Like it is absurd. It doesn't make any sense. It completely goes against our goals for more housing development. Yeah, I don't understand it, and this keeps happening. But yeah, I don't understand it. And at this point, it's, I think, too late to do anything about that for this project. But yeah, I don't know why staff keeps doing that. But any other questions for this development?
Yeah, just can you bring up the the unit mix again? Because I'm looking at, I think maybe the plan sheets online or the report. I'm seeing 3 bedrooms on there. Maybe that's slightly old or needs to be updated. Can you just pull that up real quick so I can just?
Jason, I'm happy to pull it up, but maybe to clarify, we do have 3 bedrooms in the building. There just aren't 3 bedrooms as committed affordable units.
Okay. So no, that's fine. Yes, Oh, I see. Yes, I see. Yes. Because I'm looking at the square footages. And yeah, just as a note, no questions, just comments that I want to say real quick is that, we look in this area. This is probably after the Roslyn development that we recommended for approval last Housing Commission meeting. This is probably one of the most highest value in terms of per square foot desirability areas. We look at the surrounding housing that's being built nearby and just a couple blocks north of Lion Village, you're looking at $4 million for a house. And the cost for that is $25,000 a month with the addition of almost $900K down payment. So, these are going to be renting at fraction of the cost with zero down payment. So, just a security deposit. So in terms of affordability, there's an ocean of affordability that this is filling in an area that, as noted, in an area where there's completely no housing that is even close to this, not even in the same ballpark. I mean, it's completely out there. And then my second part is that given the costs, when you look at a 3-bedroom, I would not recommend a 3-bedroom as a CAF at all, because when you look at the cost, these 3 bedrooms on average are nearly 1,500 square feet. So when you do what the average value of that would be on the market, that's almost $1 million. And I cannot imagine if you had $1 million for housing, would you give it to one family to house one family in this, or would you have leverage that for other projects that could get 1 million that can serve multiple families? So it's important that, I think it's good that there is the on-site there for the 1 and 2 bedroom, which will definitely be enabling people to live on site. But when we start getting at such high square footages, you are essentially having a very select lottery that's going to be super, super desirable, and you'll have one happy family that gets super lucky, and then you'll have many hundreds, if not thousands, that will not have the opportunity to have any subsidies. So I think that it's important consideration in these very high value sites to consider. So I do think that this program is a good affordable housing program with not only the base density, the bonus density, and the special GLUP density, which we talked about in our affordable housing ordinance meeting, is that like Langston Boulevard, for example, the site plans there require that extra bonus GLUP density, but it's not feasible because the sites are not as valuable and don't have enough bonus potential versus this site does. So this is a very rare, this is such a valuable site that it's able to produce so much bonus density, which again echoes that, the fact that, yes, that 16, the extra 2 stories hurts because this is one of the few sites that bonus density really can produce. So that's just my comments on the affordable housing, but otherwise I think this is a good project, and thank you for bringing this up.
Thank you. So I'd like to make a recommendation that the commission approve the project, but I would also like to include language asking the county board to have staff stop limiting heights like they did for this project. It does not make sense if we're a community that is prioritizing transit-oriented development to place restrictions on heights so close to the the entire corridor is close to a metro station. It just does not make sense, this decision making. So I think we should include as part of our letter that the county board should work with staff to change this decision making because it goes against our interests as a community and what we say we're trying to do and achieve. So do I have a motion for that?
I motion what you said.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, let's do roll call vote. I vote yes. Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Surface?
Yes.
Commissioner Ross?
Yes.
Commissioner Blake?
Yes.
Commissioner Linick?
Yes.
And Commissioner McGilvray?
Yes.
Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you.
Helen, I'm here. This is Commissioner Anika.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Montgomery?
Yes, I vote yes.
Okay, thank you. Did not know you were on. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So the next item, well, thank you to the applicant and thank you to staff for the presentation and the reports. And moving on to our next item, which is the Inn of Roslyn.
Good evening, everybody. I think, oh, there we go. Just put that up on the screen. Nicholas Cummings here with Walsh Colucci on behalf of the applicant. I'll say very briefly, I cannot commend you enough for the statements that you just made about building height in particular. That's something that me, from a heart of hearts policy perspective, I have strongly felt for a long time. That building we just saw should be 20 stories. That factors into the discussion and the policy debate on this project in particular. I'll get to it in a moment. This itself, Inn of Roslyn, has been a somewhat difficult case. We started this effort almost 4 years ago with a break due to economic conditions and various challenges. We discovered bedrock under the site, et cetera, et cetera. We've come a long way. We've built a lot of support. Very generally, the proposal is to demolish the existing motel and construct the 8-story residential building you see on the screen right now with approximately 141 units. There are multiple county policies impacting the site and its design. Those are all the challenges we tried to cobble something together that could satisfy each plan and stakeholder. These include the Fort Myer Heights North Area Plan, which recommends both Art Deco architecture and a private open space adjacent to the building that's intended to create a garden apartment aesthetic. The Historic Resources Inventory, which designates the building in the top 1/3 of the important structures in the county, which led us to include preservation elements in the design. Responding to all of these, we produced a design we think works really well. It hits as many county priorities as possible, and most importantly, can actually be built so that those benefits can be realized. It's not the focus today, but you're probably aware, if you looked at the staff report, staff is recommending denial of this application because in their judgment, we have not incorporated a sufficiently large private open space adjacent to the building. Our team is ready and willing to explain why that's not feasible. That was also pretty much the subject of last night's PC meeting. I'll note that the PC ultimately supported the project. The concerns that they raised were really procedural, whether or not the commissioners could recommend approval for a project when there was an arguable deviation from an area plan. All of them signed on to a motion that expressed the sense of the commission that said that this was, in their view, a very good project that accomplished a lot of important county goals. There are several critical county community benefits delivered with the project. These include 13 on-site affordable units. That's actually about 9.5% of the total unit count, which I'll say with a wink is a little bit higher than the project you just saw. They have more units total. We have fewer, but we have more as a percentage of the total. Those are composed of 6 one-bedroom and 7 two-bedroom units. Having a 7.2s here is helpful. Again, this is a small building with units that are not necessarily that huge. We have LEED Gold certified, construction, all electric except for the backup generator. We had a supportive letter from C2E2, which is fantastic. A rebuilt Fairfax Drive streetscape, including space for the county to finish the new bike lanes. 20 new trees on site. That 21-foot planted setback on Pierce Street, you can see that just right sort of in the front of the image near that 50 sign. That's Pierce Street right there. Historic preservation, including use of the 50 sign in the lobby and a historic marker. Go to the next couple slides. These are going to help show you some of the really high quality design and attention to detail in the facade. We have the white panels on front, which are intended to emulate the 50 sign that is currently on top of the motel. Little hard to see there in the existing conditions imagery, but it is there. We have hanging plantings along the face of the building at multiple levels, trees in the amenity area, an expanded planted garden, like I said, on Pierce Street, and of course, the fully rebuilt streetscape. Also, you can see it, I think, in the next slide. It might seem like a small thing, but the sidewalks around this site right now are just very narrow and dangerous, and expanding them to 6 feet clear, having the streetscape with the new trees and the plantings, that's going to help a lot for anybody who travels around this site right now. You can also see with that slope too. I mean, it's a particularly treacherous little space, going to be much safer. Let's go to the next slide. This is the rendered site plan. You can see here how challenging it was to lay out a building design on such a small sloped site. It's barely a ½ acre in size. We had to fit everything in down here. Vehicle loading, vehicle access, loading access, the transformers. And that ½ acre is not just our building. That includes the streetscape, the space for the trees, the space for the pathway across Fairfax that the county is going to pay for and build. We also had, like I said earlier, bedrock, which means that we really only had one level of parking. It's very difficult to excavate bedrock. It's expensive, and it made parking difficult to fit on this site too. Let's keep going for these slides. Next slide. Okay. So, at the end of the day, the design recommendation at issue here, and I'm reading some of what we said at Planning Commission last night to kind of help recap you on that policy discussion. But the design recommendation at issue here, which essentially is calling for a planted setback, is practically impossible for the developer to incorporate. It really should not be the reason this site sits vacant for another decade. Now, if anybody is not familiar, hasn't read it, et cetera, the long and short of it is that staff analyzed the area plan, found that what we had provided on Pierce Street in their view was not enough. They wanted a bigger open space. It would be private, but a bigger planted space next to the building. And their point was the zoning ordinance here would allow you to go up to 12 stories, so the area plan. A 12-story building in this location makes no economic sense whatsoever. We would have to move to steel and concrete construction. That's $100,000 a unit more expensive than wood frame over concrete podium construction, which is what we're doing. Translated, that's really about $700 a month in rent additional for each unit if we were to go to that construction method. We can't charge that much here. No one would ever lend us money to build this building if we were projecting rents that high. It's just way too high for this location, half a mile from the metro, down the hill, et cetera. This site makes a lot of sense as a mid-rise construction type, exactly what we're proposing here today. And so, we asked the Planning Commission, examine the planning recommendations, which are almost 20 years old now, in context with current economic conditions, which make, realization of the recommended building layout practically impossible. And also consider the many, plan goals and community benefits we are achieving and we're delivering. So we felt we proposed a project that advanced as many critical county policy goals as possible, included some great community benefits, like I said, and it can be built. Whereas, hoping that one day steel and concrete construction, high-rise construction on this site would make sense would mean waiting for years and years for either rents to go up substantially or costs to come down substantially. I'll argue, and this is a personal view, it's difficult to guess future economic conditions, et cetera. Rents will probably end up still going up. I don't think they're going to go up so much so soon to make this a high-rise site. And construction costs, while they will absolutely normalize over time, are not necessarily going to drop to some point where they are that much lower, where the cost to build a steel and concrete on this site would suddenly be $14 million fewer dollars, which is the total additional cost right now that we would estimate. So rather than let this site sit vacant with an unused hotel on it for many, many years, we really think it is the best choice to allow this to be built, deliver this affordable housing, deliver this additional housing inventory that we need in the county, and really try to beat back the tide of rising rents as much as we can. So appreciate your consideration tonight. We're here to answer questions.
Thanks, and I will quickly share my screen. Okay. Yes, so I will again quickly go over the staff handout. So as the applicant mentioned, they are proposing a new 8-story residential building with 141 units. The site currently contains the Inn of Roslyn, which was constructed in 1957 and has 38 units, and it is subject to the Fort Myer Heights North Plan. So the applicant already spoke to this, but the county manager recommendation is denial for this project. The main reason is staff found it was inconsistent with Arlington County Comprehensive Plan and the applicable and relevant county plans and policies, i.e. the Fort Myer Heights North Area Plan. So staff found that the proposed site plan significantly deviates from the adopted plan because it does not provide a substantial landscape green space on the eastern side of the site, as the applicant already talked to. And I can speak more to this later, but although the county manager is recommending denial for the project, for the purposes of this commission, you are looking at the affordable housing package for the site plan. That is generally what the commission considers, but of course it is your discretion to make any motions you see appropriate as well. So moving to the affordable housing package, this site plan also has 3 components. So the first is the base ordinance, which is about 141,000, or 1 unit on site or 2 units off site nearby, or 2 units anywhere in the county. The second piece is the Fort Myer Heights North requirement, affordable housing requirement. The plan calls for developers to designate 20% of the gross floor area over the GLUP maximum as on-site CAFs. In this case, that equates to 7,311 gross square feet. That comes out to those 3 1-bedrooms and 4 2-bedroom CAFs. The third piece to it is the additional density requested above the GLUP maximum, and to achieve that, the applicant has committed to an additional contribution of 6 on-site CAFs, a split of 3 1s and 3 2-bedrooms. So in total, the affordable housing contribution consists of the base affordable housing requirements and 13 on-site CAFs, with a mix of 6 1-bedrooms and 7 2-bedroom units. And all CAFs will be affordable up to 60% AMI for a term of 30 years. And 1 CAF will be type A accessible. So moving to the racial equity section, using the 2023 American Community Survey data, the site where the site plan is proposed has a proportionally larger white and Asian populations than the county as a whole. There is also a proportionally larger Hispanic or Latino origin population. The data also indicates they're proportionally smaller Black and multiracial and combined populations than the county as a whole. The proposed 13 on-site CAFs will benefit and enable income-eligible families to live in an area of the county that is transit proximate and contains community amenities. In terms of who is burdened, the proposed units will be affordable up to 60% AMI and may not be affordable to households with very low incomes and who may not be eligible for housing grants or housing choice vouchers. So for this reason, one could say that very low income households are missing from this opportunity. So in terms of what we do, the county has an opportunity to consider the site plan's proposed affordable housing program in light of these potential benefits and impacts. And as I mentioned before, you will see that the staff recommendation here is focused on the affordable housing package itself, as the applicant and I briefly spoke to. The county manager recommendation is denial. So there is that little bit of variation as opposed to most site plans that you see. But with that, I can turn it over to public speakers.
Thanks, Alex. And yes, I think this may be my first site plan since I've been on the Housing Commission that the county manager and staff recommendation is not to approve. Let's start with Stuart. Stuart, are you there?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I had a little trouble with my screen. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Stuart Stein, and I'm here representing the Radnor-Fort Myer Heights Civic Association. We usually request levels of affordability extending beyond the 60 AMI and terms beyond the 30 years. We would like to see the county negotiate for both of these things in the future. We have always been dedicated to on-site units and appreciate the realization of those on-site units in this project. The Fort Myer Heights North study and then plan was very much in response to the accelerated loss of affordable housing and the continuous pressure to dismantle this diverse community and replace it with a continuation of Roslyn and Courthouse instead. One of our concerns was the loss of market affordable units and their related levels of affordability, along with more open qualification criteria. We still have those concerns, especially where marks currently exist. But with this project, we are thrilled to have totally new CAF units. We very much appreciate and totally support the addition of 13 new affordable units at the Inn of Roslyn site, a place where no affordable units currently exist. We hope you will agree and support this site plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Alice.
Good evening again. I agree with some of the points that Stuart is making. The fact that we will get 141 net new units on the site is a welcome addition to our housing in the county. I do believe this building is a LEED Gold design as well, which may offset some of the issues that the staff had brought up. As we hear, the neighborhood is in favor of this project. And the green space that the staff was requesting would face Arlington Boulevard. It's not going to be a place where there's a lot of, playtime and, families spending a lot of time in those exact spaces. So I don't think it being lost here is as big as if it would be in a more usable, walkable, highly populated area. I did want to ask how many trees that are planned for this site, because the staff report mentioned only 2, and I believe that meant on the side where they wanted a larger private green space. But total, is there a number of trees that you can share with the commission? And I think that's all. I hope you'll support the project.
Thank you, Alice. Alex, do you mind reading Joe's statement, if you have that handy? Joe was the representative to the SBRC for the Housing Commission.
Yes, 1 second. Let me pull that up. I don't have it right now, but I can grab it.
Thank you.
Okay. And I can actually share screen. So from Joe, these are my notes from the June 9th SPRC meeting. I've also reviewed the current staff report with the county manager's now recommendation. My comments: I would not support denying this project based on the lack of substantial landscape green space. With all due respect to the comprehensive plan, when it was written, we were not facing the housing supply crisis we see today. Denying Monument Realty the ability to develop their land for housing because of tree cover seems misguided. If the 38-room hotel were still in existence, there would be no tree cover. Similarly, if the site remains vacant behind a chain link fence, there will be no meaningful tree cover. That said, I do have concerns with the main entrance on North Pierce Street. The frontage/apron does not appear sufficient in Uber, Amazon, and other delivery drop-offs. When I raised this, I was told that street parking would suffice. In my experience here in Roslyn, that does not work. We already see frequent double parking in front of residential buildings and restaurants for quick drop-offs, and this creates congestion and safety issues. I believe this aspect of the site plan needs more attention. And then he listed the community benefits that we've already gone over.
Thank you, Alex. And thank you, Joe, in absentia, I think. Any questions? Actually, Alice's question about the trees, Nicholas, if you wouldn't mind.
Yep.
Providing some info on that.
We have 20 new trees. Jess, can you put up, we can show the slide. Yay, okay. This was a great question also because tree canopy was quite frankly an issue we discussed early on, because when we were discussing the appropriateness of whatever we were doing with the setback to mimic the garden apartment aesthetic, staff zeroed in appropriately so on the amount of canopy coverage on the site, right? Because initially I think it looked to them like we weren't satisfying Chesapeake Bay, which has a lot of very finicky rules about what counts and doesn't count. Everything you see on the page that is a big circle that's colored, both pink and green, are trees that we are planting and that we are maintaining for the life of this site plan. So if they die, we're replanting them, etc. Not all of them count for Chesapeake Bay. So what I think you see here, the on-site canopy coverage is 10%. That is showing we have trees that count for Chesapeake Bay that get you to 10%. The total canopy on the entire site, and this is because we worked very hard to do this because we had issues with this private open space. is almost 20%, which is very high for a site of this size and for a site that's urban infill in Arlington. Beyond all that, there are obviously 0 trees on site today, not even street trees. It's a paved motel site. So this is a huge improvement. And it was part of our effort on this case to address every other issue that we possibly could, because the other issue that staff had identified was something we simply couldn't fix.
Thank you. I know someone is likely to ask this question. I might as well just ask it now. Can you talk a little bit about your predicted average rents for the different, like 1 bedroom or different unit sizes?
Yeah, we looked at comparable rents for the affordable. I mean, everybody does. When you negotiate an affordable housing package with the county, you look at what the value of the subsidy is, right? And part of that is an examination of comparable rents in the neighborhood. Mr. Olson can correct me if he has a different memory of this, but I think that they were between $3.80 and $3.90 a square foot. And if you do the math out very roughly, just based on what rent is in the neighborhood right now for relatively newer housing stock, that translates to like $3,900, $3,800 a month for a 1 bedroom, which is just, taking a look at what market rents are right now. Closer to Metro, up in certainly in Courthouse, right adjacent to the Metro, but in Roslyn as well, you're seeing rents well over $4 a square foot, closer to maybe even $4.50 a square foot, which means a 1 bedroom, if it's 1,000 square feet, roughly $4,500 a month.
Thanks. That's depressing. Okay. Other questions, comments from commissioners? Go ahead, Zach.
Thank you. And Nick, first of all, go Tribe. I'm also a Tribe member. What is maybe this is a question for Alex or anybody who feels suited to answer. What was staff's and the county manager's response to your claim that providing this amount of green space is infeasible? Was it that they disagreed with that the veracity of that statement, or that we should change the comprehensive plan and shouldn't deviate?
Yeah, it was, they agree. They understand. They fully understand the economics. Arlington has some of the best professional staff in the region as far as their intelligence and, strength of their work product, et cetera. They get it. Their point is that economics are not their purview. And if a plan is unworkable for those reasons, they didn't feel that was enough to permit a deviation. Look, in my experience doing this for a number of years, I've certainly gotten cases approved where exactly what was in the plan was certainly not what was in the project at the end of the day, including deviations from even the size of public open space, certainly deviations from things like step backs and setbacks. I think that their concern, and Mr. Schultz expressed it really well last night at Planning Commission, was some of the strength of the language, both in the zoning ordinance and in the plan about this. And they just felt like it was so prescriptive that they weren't comfortable supporting a deviation. Obviously, the county board can do that, and certainly the Planning Commission can examine those. It makes for a much more stressful process for us, but it's a path forward. The other option would have been, and if Mr. Olson and I knew that this was going to be as big of a deal as it turned out to be, we might have gone in for a plan amendment first. Those take years and they're difficult too, and sometimes it's far more efficient and better just to go forward with what you can do with the site and try to get it approved. We also had feedback early on that led us to think that something closer to what we did was going to be fine. But it took 4 years. A lot has changed in 4 years. And attitudes changed too on the county side.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Alex, is there anything you or if there's any other staff want to say about that?
No, nothing I'll add. I wasn't, as privy to those open space conversations, more so focused on the affordable housing component. So I have nothing to add there.
Thank you. Jason.
Yeah, I listened into the planning commission meeting, and I think the common thing that was said from the commissioners, and I echo the thoughts, is that this is not like staff is simply just saying what's in the plan from 2008. Like it's not like their opinion, or that's just what it is, right? And it's like there's no like again, the job of the county staff is not to judge whether it's like there should be a change, because that is a commission slash county board thing. It's just they strictly look to the plan and see like how much the technical matter. And like based on this, I believe there was two different options on the green space, and because the building north of it got developed to the size it had, it required that this building, I guess, right? Is that incorrect? Or
No, that's completely correct. That's 100% right.
Okay. Yeah. That this building be in a way that it was. And, that was back in 2008. That's I was, I don't know how and people were, that's another era of
I was
life
in
for many
college.
people,
I was there.
Yeah. I was not thinking about housing at all. So back then, to be sure. But yeah, so I just want to echo that this is not like Arlington. This is amazing professional work, and just because they issued the recommendation is not like, oh, this is a bad thing. It's just that's what it is. So, but I do have a quick question. Nicholas, can you talk about the HALRB vote changes, and what was the timeline to change the, I guess, facade to incorporate that? What was the timeline that it took to do that? Just curious.
Yeah, so HLRB, we visited once. We would have gone again, but it really wasn't necessary. We had a pretty productive meeting with them that actually led to the idea to preserve the 50 sign in the lobby, which was great. They had design thoughts about the building. They didn't think that the Art Deco worked with the historic preservation. They said kind of pick a lane, figure out how you're going to design this. The panels that we have and stuff on the front of the building, we had been thinking about those gestures since the beginning, because we knew that the building was important on the HRI and knew that some elements of preservation, even if it was a element of preservation in the sense of like echoing what was there rather than like incorporating some portion of it, which was impossible. We knew that that was something we should be looking at. And again, we knew that there were elements of the plan that we weren't going to be able to do. Obviously, we disagree on exactly how prescriptive that is, et cetera, et cetera. I'll even offer for everybody's benefit, you didn't hear this maybe earlier, but we have a 21-foot planted setback that's actually identical in size to one across the street for a by right garden apartment from the 50s. I mean, there is some similarity between what we've done and what has been done with other garden apartments. It's just that this is a larger multifamily building on a very small site. It's never going to look like a garden apartment. But yeah, those panels were not an imposition or anything. That was part of our original sort of design philosophy.
Great, thank you. And my comment to that is, as I know that this is, quoted important, and there was debate, but I think for me, as again, when I'm looking at buildings, and as it goes through different commissions, is I'm looking at how is it affecting the tenants, and I feel like these changes that are imposed by historic preservation, this is preserving a motel and making changes to like remind tenants that yes, there's no added value to a tenant that is next to what is 11 lanes of traffic, a highway. And to me, it's like I know that the process is you have to adhere to somewhat to the HALRB or whatever, but to me is that as a tenant, if I were to say take all that time and effort and money, I know it is what it is, but I wish I could have gone to other things, better windows or so many things that could have taken place. And I think it's just my comments on the process is that through our building reviews is that a lot of times we are making changes based on what others that don't live nearby or they want it for their aesthetic or whatever. But at the end of the day is that we're driving up costs for tenants and not delivering a better product. That means less affordable housing. That means less quality housing. So, I mean, I think that this is a great job of keeping that history. But I think that, I think this is something that, I mean, not a discussion now, but when we talk about historic preservation and other things is that, we got to think of like, why are we doing this? Are we doing this because, like a motel, it was there. Yes, it was a motel for auto-oriented use, but if we're just preserving it just because something there was there before, that doesn't help any tenants. It doesn't help our solve our challenges. So
Yeah.
That's just my general comment on that process.
I
appreciate what
me,
you did to respond to that.
Yeah. So look, we work through this process. There's multiple stakeholders, and our team works hard to address everything and to work with everyone and try to balance it. The professional staff do a pretty good job usually of balancing priorities like that. But of course, everything in Arlington does need to look good, and it does need to address some of these goals. I mean, I can do you one better. I worked on a building a few years ago, very close to the courthouse metro, that did some beautiful historic preservation. Had we not done that and not done a couple other things, kind of like, addressing a bunch of different priorities, we could have done one really big thing, right? It could have been a huge new park across the street or something like that. Because at the end of the day, we budget a certain amount of money to, community benefits that we know that we're going to need to provide, and that's entirely fine. Incentive-based zoning works, and I'm glad that Arlington does it. But exactly how that money is spent is important. And all of you advocating for those things is critical. And it does drive up the cost of housing unquestionably. It's not necessarily the historic preservation here. I think we were happy to do that. I think the building looks great. But in general, everything that we do at the behest of anybody, essentially making policy through new construction, right? Not through generating funds into the general fund through taxes, it passes it directly on to the tenants. And so rent in Arlington County is paying for affordable housing, which is good. Open space, et cetera. But it is the tenants often who are paying that, right? And they're paying a disproportionate share of the burden of making that policy and making those public improvements that benefit everybody. Because at the end of the day, it's not coming out of Mr. Olson's pocket or even really necessarily the owner of his company or anything. Like, there's investors, they want to get a return, et cetera. But the building, everything that goes into the construction budget, which includes all of these benefits and stuff, has to be paid for. So it's tough.
Thank you. There's no. I'm not saying that. I think you guys are great. I'm just saying the overall process, and as we look at future, we're going through our general land comprehensive plan as we look at all of our elements and things. So this is just. I think it's good as we see different projects come in and look at the different trade-offs that we're making and saying, okay, what do we really value as a community? And that's a bigger conversation. But for here, I think it was. A good job. Thank you.
Yeah, and this conversation is critical to everybody kind of getting on board with how to solve the housing crisis and at least do our best job in Arlington, Fairfax, Loudoun, everywhere in the region. So please, I love these discussions.
Other questions, comments on this site plan? Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
What is the motion?
To adopt the recommendation that this project move forward. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second it.
Okay, and let's do a roll call. I vote yes. Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner Linick?
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Surface?
Yes.
Commissioner Montgomery?
Yes.
Commissioner Blake?
Yes.
Commissioner Ross?
Yes.
And Commissioner McGilvray?
Yes.
Okay, it passes unanimously. Okay, excuse me. Thank you to both staff and the applicant for the presentations. And I believe the next item on our agenda is our electronic meetings policy. Is that correct, Alex?
Yes, and I can pull that up.
And Alex, are there any changes to this, or this is just, it's exactly what we adopted last year, but we have to adopt it every year?
So yes, that is exactly the case. As a commission, the electronic meetings policy needs to be adopted annually. There are no changes to this policy as is already in place. So yes, it is what already is there. Just need to kind of renew it once a year.
Great. Do I have a motion to readopt the policy that we are required to adopt every year?
Motion to adopt.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any objection? And it passes unanimously. Great. Next item on the agenda, I think, is development updates. Oh, Alex, you are on mute.
Yep, sorry about that. Yes, so there is one development update tonight outside of kind of the meetings and SPRCs. So Crystal House 3 did close on its financing, which is great news. Yep. So we are very excited about adding a massive amount of committed affordable units at that site. So construction is underway, and look forward to that. So that is the only substantive update for this evening. I believe meetings wise, we also are covered right now. Karen is covering the special GLUP study that I sent out. But other than that, I think we are fully covered right now, meetings wise.
Alex,
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just if talk about if someone would be willing to switch for it's okay if no one's able to say yes or no now, but if someone's able to switch coverage for the county board meeting to present our findings for the 2 site plans.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I didn't receive any responses, but yeah, September 13th county board meeting. I believe Jason was the primary, and Brian was the alternate, or I forget who is the alternate, but both are unable to attend. So if someone is able to attend the county board meeting on the 13th and speak to the 2 items that that were just heard, the 2 site plans, that would be appreciated. But right now it looks like we do not have coverage. So if you can do that, let me know.
Yeah, I'll still be able to do virtually, but happy to, if someone wants to take this September, I will take, your November, or I think I'm scheduled for December, but if someone's other, time next year, I'll definitely take that. Yeah, I mean, I'll still be able to go if no one is, but again, just putting that there, if someone's able to do that, I'll switch. So thank you.
Anyone able to switch, or we'll just have Jason be virtual? Okay. Jason, sounds like you will be virtual. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Alex, anything else?
That's it for development updates.
Okay. And then next, I think we have our subcommittee updates. And let's see. First, let's go with the Affordable Housing Ordinance Working Group. So Brian, if you could brief us on where things stand and what recommendation or give us as much of a preview of what is likely to come before the Full Housing Commission at our second meeting on the 16th, which does everyone know that we're meeting on the 16th, that we have a second meeting this month? I realize that may or may not have been communicated, and I can't remember if it was. Alex, has that gone out yet publicly or not yet?
So it is on the website. I'm not sure if this group was told yet. The Affordable Housing Ordinance group was told about the meeting on the 11th. But yeah, the public notice will be going out in the next few days. Okay. So,
well, surprise, commissioners, we will have a second meeting on September 16th to formally receive and take action on the recommendation from the Affordable Housing Working Group. We need to give them more time to finalize the recommendation, as well as our legislative priorities. So we'll be voting on those as well. And I think we were potentially going to get a update or brief on the 2024 fair housing testing report and the rampant discrimination happening in Arlington, but that may not occur until potentially October or some later date. We're still working that out, but yeah, at least the legislative priorities and the official recommendation from the working group will be on the 16th. But Brian, if you want to give us as much of an update as you can on what people can expect for that meeting.
Yeah, thank you. So I don't want to go through the entire chronology because that was a 7-month process, and I don't want to keep you all through all that. But just suffice to say, we've come to a place where we've analyzed a lot of comparative examples regionally of affordable housing ordinance to get a sense of the lay of the land. We started off with a study and panel of where the ordinance came out of, the process, and where we can move forward to improve it. We had a lot of robust discussion with a number of the individuals here on the Housing Commission present about what changes were adequate and different methodologies by which we could amend the ordinance. And at this point, staff has presented a number of possible options to me that will be going out to the Affordable Housing Working Group soon before our September 11th meeting. I'll share with you a handful of them that I think are relevant for the group. First, related to changing the ordinance, we discussed at length the feasibility and wisdom of manipulating the ordinance in such a way that it be modified where the cash contribution to the county's affordable housing fund for residential development would more directly relate to the on-site affordable dwelling unit provision in Virginia Code, and that'd be more commensurate with the value of the on-site provision. The specific numbers of that haven't been hammered out, which leads us to another one of the possible options that will be also considered at our next meeting, which is that the Housing Commission may also study a means by which we could move forward with enabling legislation that would enable Arlington County to change the affordable housing ordinance whenever and however it sees fit. So instead of tinkering with the specific formulas and language, basically what would happen is the county would seek a legislative redress to the process where it could, in the future, change the ordinance at its own leisure. This would remove the responsibility from us coming up with these numbers, because I believe that process really should involve more local partners and relevant shareholders. So there are a number of other options on the table. Those are just two, but I think they kind of get at the gist of where we are. Either we can move forward and try to prescribe a specific fix to the problem that we've identified, or we can basically pivot and say that we want the county to seek legislation that would enable it to change the ordinance on its own timetables, in which case it could develop a process by which it evaluates the different means by which it could shift the formula for the ordinance and perhaps come to a more conclusive decision that would incorporate a variety of important voices. So that's basically where we are, and we hope to have a brief set of recommendations for you after our next meeting.
Thank you, Brian. Very much looking forward to the recommendation from the subcommittee, and appreciate all the hard work that you as chair and all the members have been doing over the last 7 months. I think from talking to county board members and members of our General Assembly delegation, and my own personal views, like I I think that Arlington should have the authority to make changes to its own ordinance. I think it doesn't make sense for Richmond to control how we do affordable housing in Arlington County specifically. So I think that's something that should change regardless of any specific changes that are made to the ordinance, is that like we as a community should be able to make our own changes without having to go to the governor and the entire General Assembly to get permission to, you know, have affordable housing a certain way in our community. But yeah, very much looking forward to the recommendation that comes out from the subcommittee, and having the full commission weigh in on that and make a decision about what we want to recommend to the county board, so that they can begin their process, or not begin, but continue the process of working with our General Assembly delegation and other stakeholders throughout the community to put together legislation for the 2026 General Assembly session. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, just one additional point I'd like to make. As part of the recommendations we're considering, we wanted to give a full range of options to the Housing Commission. So in addition to legislative solutions, which would have to go to Richmond, as part of our discussions, we also noted the need for local changes as well. So that will also be included in our discussion and any future recommendation package that comes out. So you can look forward to ideas around GLUB changes and how the county board can seek amendments to when and where applicants may be able to obtain exemptions. That's something that wouldn't necessarily follow the same path as some of our legislative proposals, but it's something I think worth considering as sort of an omnibus set of recommendations. So thank you.
Any questions? Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, so I just wanted to chime in. Yeah, I think Brian's doing a great job leading this. The big tension that there is with the ordinance is how we're able to increase the housing without increasing costs, because if you increase what it takes to do this, then that's more money. And as Brian mentioned, there's different ways that we're looking at how we can offset those costs. And those come at different pros and cons. Another thing that we're also looking at is bonus density. And at first, bonus density wasn't really scoped in. But the thing is that because so many projects go well above the base contribution, I mean, there are some that you're pretty much at, but so many go above, and most of the caps that are generated through bonus density, and bonus density is already, county has full control over what we negotiate for that in terms of the benefits, which is also one of the legislative priorities, is to add more additional benefits that we can negotiate for in bonus density. But I think that's the challenge, is how do we scope that in? And that's also how in the future we change things, because if the base densities are increasing, then the base contribution will be a bigger factor. But if not, and it still remains, there's still a lot of control that the board has as to how many caps we're getting. But the issue is, of course, if you require more caps and bonus density, then that's less you get with other things like green building, not green building, but other infrastructures that we can negotiate for in the bonus density contribution. So I think that's the key things that we're keyed in on, is how can we get more, but also not necessarily increase the cost, and look at various scenarios of not wanting to generate different side effects. If like looking at the floor area ratios, where it kicks in, and how it benefits different size and developments, and where people are stretching or limiting sizes of buildings, as to how it plays out. So those are the complicated things that go into this.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Jason. Any other questions? Okay. Very much looking forward to what comes out of the subcommittee meeting on the 11th. And hopefully, Brian, you'll be able to get us that recommendation as soon after the 11th as you can, so that people have a chance to, think about that before our meeting on the 16th. And especially for folks who can't make it on the 16th too, so that they still have an opportunity to consider and then weigh in their thoughts. Okay. I know Katie wasn't able to be here today. And I don't know if she would mind, but she got engaged. So congratulations to Katie. I don't know if everyone was aware of that, but that's exciting news. And we can congratulate her in person at actually, I don't know that she can make the meeting on the 16th, but at least at the October meeting, can hopefully do that. The Community Engagement Task Force continues. I don't have a specific update. I don't know if anyone else had anything specific that they wanted to add for that, but that work will, continue through the end of this year. Gathering a lot of information. Hopefully that will result in recommendations. Okay, any updates on TIDSAC? Margaret, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Yep, sorry. We just kicked off the 5-year consolidated plan yesterday, which is basically the HUD required plan for the CDBG and home funding, but it's also what the county uses to help guide also the AHIF funding, which I think is the bigger piece that we care about in particular, as well as CDBG and home. And so I encourage people to the piece that we're looking at, that we looked at last night, and that they're starting a several-month citizen participation and input process is into the goals, and looking at whether the goals that they've used for the last 5 years should continue to be the goals that they use ongoing. And just so people are aware, they're just 4 high-level goals of creating and sustaining affordable rental and home ownership housing, promoting healthy and self-sufficient families, stabilizing households at risk of homelessness, and then fostering vibrant and sustainable neighborhoods. And we already did get some input from the public even last night, but overall, CIDSAC felt like those 4 goals were good and largely flexible goals to continue for the next 5 years, but we'll be gathering public comment over the next about 3 months. And then in February, they'll be that will build up to putting the actual draft consolidated plan out in February. So also, they do a housing data needs analysis. And so hopefully they'll be sharing that, because I think that'll be also of particular interest to the Housing Commission.
Great, thank you. Nikki, do you want to give an update and a preview for the Legislative Priority Subcommittee?
Yes. Hi, everyone. So we've been meeting over the summer to review the past legislative priorities that we've considered. We've looked at over 20 priorities that we've considered in the past and narrowed that down to about 10. So we had a discussion of the full set of 20, and then all of the subcommittee members came back with their list of 10. And we, for the last, I believe 2, there was a decent amount of alignment, but I believe for the last 2, and I think we have a bonus 11th one, we kind of re-looked at the list and re-ranked from the ones that were the highest from like the first pass of looking at the 10 that folks brought to the meeting, where we narrowed it down on an individual basis and then look at it collectively. So next meeting, we will take a closer look at the 10. I can go over them now. Maybe I can actually even share my screen. Let's see.
And Nikki, I think it was slightly over 30 that we considered in total.
That many at the very start? Okay. I guess I'm thinking of like the list that we combined some, or they were incorporated into some other ones. But let me pull up the document. So yeah, there were a lot that we looked at. Okay. Sorry, now my computer is freezing. Good. All right, there we go. This guy over here. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great, thank you. All right, so here's the 10. Like noted, it's not in any particular order. So that one at the top is what Brian just went over. Obviously, that subcommittee has been doing a lot of great work, so we want to make sure to include whatever the final recommendation is from that subcommittee into our larger list of legislative priorities. The next one there, expand localities negotiation authority of developers for site plan conditions to include a variety of items. This one was sort of born out of, I know we had the group from Boston, I believe California, come and talk about some of the ways they've got creative with some of that negotiation authority. So that's sort of where that one comes from. The third one there, grant authority to Virginia localities to enforce tenant rights and protections under VR LTA. I think Kellen spoke a little bit to this, sort of some of the violations we've been seeing, and also, you know, I think we've heard in the past that a lot of tenants are sort of fearful to start their own tenant associations. So this would kind of get to that. Or actually, wait, that might have actually been number 4. I think number 3 was more Kellen was talking about sort of some of the violations we're seeing. So number 5 there, allocate more resources toward enforcing fair housing laws to prevent discrimination. Number 6, fund a pilot state housing voucher program. We talked so much about unaffordable rents. Number 7, the faith in housing for the Commonwealth Act. I believe we've had some public speakers on this one before. This was a priority from last year as well. It would allow religious properties to sort of streamline the process for being able to create affordable housing on their property. The next one there, this is around ADUs. Number 9, increase funding for the Virginia Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We've included that one in our legislative priorities. Number 10, we also felt like this was low-hanging fruit to require legal aid office contact information on all lease terminations. And number 11 is a bonus one here around requiring localities to develop streamlined development process for 100% affordable developments. So I'll have some additional background information for the next meeting. I know last year Katie put together a really nice kind of summary as to which ones were included in the previous years. I noted them where I remembered, but I think there were several others that we've included before. If there's been a bill in recent years on it, et cetera. So I'll include some of that background information so we can go over it in a little more detail next week. But this will be the list that we review.
Thank you, Nikki. And it'll be up to the commission to decide, do we want to move forward with 11? Do we want to move forward with less? Yeah, it'll be our decision at that point, what we want to do and which ones we want to recommend to the county board. Any questions before we move on to the next item? Okay. Joe's not here, so no update on the HALRB. And Katie's not here for C2E2. Any other updates that I'm missing? Okay. Hearing none. Alex, is there anything else?
Nothing else for me.
Okay, then I think this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much. And see you again on the 16th.
Excel.
All right, thanks. Have a good night.
Bye.